Spinderella cut it up one time.
Howdy, y'all. This is Ray Wilkerson, and today, well,
Come on.
let's talk about rights, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about rights. And now I will sincerely apologize and promise never to do that to you again. The first order of business when discussing any topic when opposing viewpoints may be held is to agree on the definition or base principle of what it is we are discussing. This is imperative if we are ever to have any meaningful discourse on any topic. For example, take the topic of engine design. If we are trying to solve the problem of an overheating engine, we can't hope to come to some logical solution if the engine I'm trying to keep cool is the modern version. You know, the one that denotes a thing to convert thermal energy to mechanical energy, while the engine you were trying to keep cool is the original definition, which referred to a machine or instrument used in warfare, such as a battering ram, catapult, or other type of artillery. The cooling of each presents a completely different challenge. Likewise, before we can address the issue of encroachment of rights by authority, we first have to define rights. I propose that all rights have a common core, a common source. Many others agree, including those that founded the United States. Those founders believed that we are all born with certain inalienable rights. The problem is they also believe that those rights were given by authority, given by God himself. Other countries have listed rights of citizens and promised to protect them by claiming the rights were given by government to the subjects. Our authority came from God, or you were born with them. Other countries say that they came from governments. I don't believe in any deity, but I do believe the American sentiment, we are born with rights. They don't come from authority. Well, how does that work? If the rights don't come from God, and it didn't come from authority, then where did the rights come from? How can you say they are true rights when they didn't come from a common source? Well, it's quite simple, really. The rights described by governments are not true rights at all. They are only, and they are all, second-level expansions from the only true right that exists. There is only the right to complete ownership of yourself and the product of your labor. That's it. The only right is derived from the truth that you own you. Thus, the only law should be protection of that only right. For example, the Bill of Rights states Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble or to petition or what to worship, yada, 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 yada. These things are functions you can perform with your body that do not harm anyone else. It would violate your personal property rights for anyone to forcibly stop you from using your own body to make sounds, form and distribute ideas, or even believe as you see fit, because you own you. Similarly, the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment's guarantee you can keep and bear arms is the direct pronouncement that you are responsible to protect your right to personal property. Protect what you own, because again, you own you. Another simple example is found in the Third Amendment. Because a soldier quartering in your home would be forcibly using your property without your permission. They would be stealing resources that you used, your personal property, which is yourself, and your acquired skills to attain. You own you. Nobody has a right to take or block a portion of you or use something that belongs to you without your permission, and so on throughout the Bill of Rights. This confusion on what rights really are has led to all sorts of perversions of what should and should not be a right. Politicians leverage this and slowly claim more and more second and third level so-called rights as it suits their career goals. They use these fake rights to gain favor and curry popular support. Some have recognized this corrupt behavior, but then incorrectly concluded that there are no real rights because of what they see. This leaves the prevailing winds of popular opinion as the only true measure of what rights should be. When the definition of a right is from authority, there is no rule of law. There are only rulers over law, and the rest of us become resources ready for exploitation. You own you, and ultimately, you should be free to acquire and use skills to the best of your ability. Since the product of the application of your acquired skills would not exist but for your efforts to acquire the skill to produce through education, then acquire the materials and finally make the product, That product is your property. It is an extension of you. Assuming you did all three, you really are the rightful owner of that product. Hang on, Ray. I thought my argument rights were superfluous was difficult before, but you just made it easy. Let's say you have a chair you built that I want. Without the definition of law that says I can't take it, I could do just that. That means that rights are actually only those things defended by government, which means government gives us the rights. You don't have a right to your property because I can take it. Of course, rights don't protect property. That doesn't mean the right does not exist. A right basically is a public understanding that you are justified in defending it, even if deadly force is required against anyone in the act of defending your personal right. It is not some magic pill that protects you. A true right is a natural law beyond reproach which each of us knows instinctively must be defended. The fact someone could forcibly take your rights has nothing to do with their existence. Believing the right is granted by authority means authority can take it away. If authority can take it away, it is not a true right. A right must be based on principles because principles work the same way in one small iteration as they do when magnified 1,000,000,000 times. Principles cannot be interpreted incorrectly. Thus, they can withstand the winds of time, the test of time, if you were. Natural law would state that if a property is in use, it would violate the rights of the property owner to infringe his use of his own property or his own product. I claim this to be natural law because we humans know that if we would not want a thing done to us, we instinctively know that to do so to another would be wrong. Questions such as, would it cause harm? Or would it require force? These things we know the answer to instinctively as it relates to our own person. So you see, the only real crime is a crime that violates property rights. Every real crime, from theft in all forms to fraud, vandalism, battery, rape, and even murder, are at their core just egregious violations of property rights. So, assuming we agreed that you own you, and the only law needed is protection of property rights because you own you, and everything else flows from that, don't we need a government to ensure that protection? Surely that's a worthy cause of taxation, so all have equal and fair protection. That's why taxation to fund that protection is justified, Ray. The idea that the power the government wields is justified as from we the people is invalid on its face. The existence of government in its present form is only possible through expropriation of private property. The same private property they claim that they exist to protect. The property that only you can ever own. You. So in order to protect your rights, they have to violate them? An expropriating property protector is a contradiction in terms. An expropriating property protector is a property-taking property protector. This is the flawed-based principle on which we take roughly 30 to 50% of everyone's salary. In other words, 30 to 50% of the product of everyone's use of private property, and allow a small group of reality-disconnected sociopaths to not only dictate aspects of our personal lives, but involve our collective asses in massive debts. Debts we neither voted for, we never approved, and it's all in order to bomb foreign lands and act as the police force of the world. Again, this also cannot be dismissed. We cannot delegate rights we do not have. It's literally not possible. We cannot delegate the power to take property because we don't have the authority ourselves. Protection of private property must be the responsibility of the property owner. We can't just skip right over that like the flaw isn't there. It's a big damn flaw, delegating rights you don't have. Imagine a grand mathematical proof that would change our understanding of the universe, but the catch is that pi equals 8675309 instead of 3.141592653589793. Can there be any justification to believe this new proof and accept this new grand understanding of the universe? Other than, of course, that 8675309 makes a better song, and it sounds better than 3.141592653589793. Okay, I said I wouldn't do that again, but I guess I did. Governments rely on violating your rights to exist. They rely on the invalid principle that we can delegate the right to expropriate property from others, regardless the will of the property owner. Okay, Mr. Smarty Pants, what's your solution then? I don't propose how society will deal with preventing geographical monopolies of force 150 to 400 years from now. What I do know is that the use and justification of force in our personal lives is very heavily frowned upon, because we all know force and violence are wrong. We teach that to our kids so that they can be cooperative and successful in a peaceful society. But then we justify violations of that natural order and say, well, that's government for you. That's just the way it is. We have to protect ourselves from the crazy people out there. We do all this because the definition of a right has always been ill-defined. It's always been ill-defined because we allow authority structures to define it. We must stop allowing authority structures to be the defining source of rights. The only true rights are natural rights that we can recognize without an instruction book through simple empathy. Unfortunately, you and I are likely doomed to suffer the immorality and force of government our entire lives. If there is ever to be a true shift to peace, it's going to have to be achieved through training into our kids the ability to recognize the tricks of government, such as the perversion of words to curry favor, and then to teach their kids, who then teach their kids and their friends, with each generation spreading the message of non-aggression and truth to their children, friends, and family. Eventually, there will come a time when the governments of the world will collapse. They always do, they always have, and always will, and always for the same reasons. Future generations need to be ready to pick up the pieces and prevent formation of another monopoly over force. The tides may shift in a way that makes possible a peaceful transition through reformation, but history doesn't offer much hope of that, guys. It definitely can't happen if our kids never learn about government from anyone but the government. It definitely can't happen if we don't really accept non-aggression on a personal level. Rules have to be based on principles that future generations will instinctively recognize. That means they have to be very few and very, very clear. It can't happen by some organization or movement either, because the apparatus of government will protect itself violently and vehemently. The battles for this change must be fought within the mind if they are ever to be won. Thanks for listening, folks. Please like and share this video far and wide. The message is applicable no matter which geographical monopoly of force you were born under. Spread the word.